Hello, 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 everybody. This is Single Talk, Single Talk. Hey, Denise, our guest is on the line, waiting on my co-host. I'm not sure where he is, but anyway, we're going to go on because we're just so thankful just to be a part. This is something new for us, and so we are endeavoring to do it. So this is our inaugural show for Single Talk, and so we're just glad for anybody that will join us and want to hear what we have to say. I have an awesome person on the line. And this person is Denise Montgomery. And I'm telling you, Denise Montgomery is going to be on the show. We're going to talk about all her wonderful things. Because what we're endeavoring to do is we're endeavoring to highlight singles. You know, singleness sometimes is looked upon as, people be acting like the single saints is cross something, I don't know. They just be saying stuff. And so the Lord gave me this some time ago to do. I hope the light is good. I'm trying to get this worked out. But anyway, I don't know, it looks darker. But anyway, trying to pull this light back in over here. See if that gives us a little more light today. Yeah, just a little bit more. Anyway, I'm in a different room, so it's not in my usual place where I have it. So I'm trying to do something different. Anyway, but we gonna go on because this is our first show. I ain't gonna cry, ain't gonna cry with spilled milk. None of those things. I'm not sure why this is so dark. But anyway, there we go. I got it right now. But anyway, so here's our co-host.
That made it dark.
That made it darker? Can y'all see me? Okay. All right, Denise, where are you at so I can pull you on? Hi, Mr. Henry. Hello. This is Single Talk. We getting this going. You on here?
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. If y'all can find me on Facebook. Okay, if y'all can find me on Facebook and join in, then I can pull you up on Facebook as well. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'll wait and see if I can see you all when you pop up, and we'll do that. But anyway, so
I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you now, Denise.
Okay, so I can't see your. Okay, I don't know. See, this is new to me. Y'all know. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so we'll just go on like we are. I'm not sure. I don't see you popping up as watching, and so I know when you pop in, I can pull you in. So we'll see. I'm like, this is trial and error. But anyway, if not, we'll do it again with Denise because she's got such an awesome story. But anyway, so what we're doing is in Single Talk, our mission is where we're going to endeavor to highlight amazing singles. We're going to highlight some of our amazing singles, and then we're going to talk about single topics. And so today, since our guest is a single mother, we're going to talk about single mothers raising their sons. And so of course, she's already raised her son. Her son is grown and on his own. But we wanted to see if she can give some wisdom to those that are still raising their sons and some good tips on what she used. Because she was a single mother, she was saved, she was doing things in the church, she was a teacher, she had all these things going on. She went through college, all these things were going on. So what are some tips that she can give other single mothers who might be raising their sons, struggling with doing that, and how she might can advise them on how to get through that in a more smoother transition. Sometimes we don't get to know how people have overcome things because we don't really testify in church like we used to back in the day, or you might not hear somebody's story or whatever. But sometimes if you can hear somebody else's story, then sometimes that will help you to move forward and with what's going on in your life and how not to, just because you're a single mother and you're raising children, how not to forget about yourself as well, because that sometimes happens when people are caring for other people. Now, I don't know it from a child perspective, but I do know it from adult perspective on taking care of adults. And that's what I do know. Okay.
Well, Denise, the first thing I can say is my son is 27 now. And when I had my son, I was already away from home. I was out on my own and had been out on my own for quite some time. So when I had my son, it wasn't like my life was starting over. He came, I would tell him, son, you came into my life. I didn't come into yours.
Yes.
So nothing changed for me. I mean, I didn't stop doing what I was doing. I'm not saying that, I'm going to anyway. So, errands to go. I took my son and things I had to do. Okay, if I couldn't get a babysitter, I made sure it was safe for him, and I I made sure, one things I wanted to make sure that he was around godly men. Because no matter how much a woman is raising a male, you can't teach him how to be a man. So I wanted to make sure he was around godly men, and thank God I'm in a wonderful church. And I've always, I was able to make sure that he saw and he heard. And I have two wonderful brothers that helped me with him. So having that backup system was one of the things that helped me more than anything.
All right, so that's important. Having a good backup system is one thing that she's saying that was important when she was raising as a single mother, raising her child. Now, what are some of the other things you did? Because I know you went to college while you were and you had Joseph at the time. So, what were some of the things that you did doing to get that accomplished as well as raising a son?
Well, I started teaching when Joseph was 4 years old. And at that time, I had a bachelor's degree, but I was I started TWU. So basically what we had a routine. I would go to school all summer, and what I would do is just take Joseph to the pool. He doesn't remember this, but I would take him to the pool, and while he was in the pool, I was just sitting on the sideline studying. I wrote a minute paper sitting by the pool, sitting in the pool. I would take him to the park. I would take him to Chuck E. Cheese. And I never let him stop being a child. It's just that I had to be creative to do what I needed to do. And I finished my master's degree, and we just went right along. I started writing books when he was little. But the main thing is I didn't let his life suffer because I was still trying to get myself going. So I was lost to sleep this night. Because I still had to be a parent. I still had to go to parent teacher conference. I still had to do all the things that you have to do for your child. But, we made it. But it's not easy. It's not easy. You have to make a lot of sacrifices.
So you took him on play dates, and while he was playing, you were studying.
There you go. And he never saw the books. We would be at Chuck E. Cheese. He would be playing the ball, and he'd look up, or he'd come around on a ride, and I'd look up and smile, and he'd go right back to playing. Or he'd be in the pool. He'd look up and say, "Mama, watch me dive." I'd look up. "Oh, that's wonderful," and go right back to studying. And to this day, she'll tell me, "Mama, I don't remember you doing that."
Isn't that something? Because he was so young and he didn't remember. What about raising him in the church? What about that? Because he was raised in the church, and I know it's so much going on. Denise, because I want you to speak to this too. And I know we kind of really off path because we were supposed to talk about your books and stuff first, and then come on the other. But we don't care. We're gonna go on with wherever the Lord flow it. That's where it's gonna go. We'll talk about the other stuff in a minute. And I want Henry, I want you to jump in here and say something, because you might have some questions that I don't ask, and so we want everybody to be a part because he's our co-host, and so I'm excited about him being our co-host. And so, but one of the things I wanted to talk about too, Denise, was your raising him in the church, because you're a teacher, so you know both perspectives. And can you just give a little bit of the condition of what you've been seeing in school? What some of the students and how they're acting and stuff like that. Because I think sometimes people think when teachers are talking about things, what they're talking about, they're exaggerating, and they're not exaggerating at all. Because I've been over there in these classrooms, and I'm telling you, it is something. And I'm telling you, even when I'm in the classroom, I am praying for these young men. I'm praying for them now, even over this summer. I said that was going to be one of my prayer points this summer, was to pray for these kids over the summer and make sure, Lord, bless them to get back to school safely for the next year and keep their lives and keep them out of trouble, because it's so much for them to get into, and they are in a whole lot more than what we think about. Can you speak to that? And then I want to talk about you bringing him up in the church, because maybe that will help some of these mothers who are just not going to church right now. They don't go to church. They're not bringing their children up in the way of the Lord. And how do I know that? Because I'm hearing the conversations that children are talking about. What do you have to say about that, Denise?
Well, basically, as you said, matter of fact, I just retired from teaching. But basically, I found that one of the most problems is parents are doing the best they can. You're trying to work, especially single parents, you're doing all you can. But kids are bombarded with so much on the internet. There's just so much information out there for them to have to get through. And there's nobody to tell you, you really don't need to be looking at that. Because parents don't have the time now. They're doing their own thing, or what I found they're doing their own thing, or basically they're working 2 or 3 jobs trying to make ends meet. So kids are left to make decisions about what they think is right, or they're left, to do what they think they need to do. And we can't really talk about God in school. So I was always one of these teachers that tried to bring up some type of story where I could bring Christ into it. And I really found out that very few of my students even had a knowledge of the Lord or even believed that it was a God. And, they would, when I was bringing up, they were interested in hearing. But most of my kids didn't have a background. They didn't go to church. They didn't have anybody that went into church. And they really never had nobody that really talked to them about the Lord.
Exactly. And so then what did you do different to ensure that your son was raised in the church, and what did you introduce him to as a child? Because maybe some parents are like, at this point, well, how do I even bring them into that? How do I get in it? How do I bring them into it? Now, fortunately for me, I was one of them children. I had my mind made up about things a lot, and I would just go do things, and then I come home and tell them about it later. But because I went to church, joined the church, got baptized, done all that. Told them when I got baptized, they knew that, but they didn't know I had joined the church. And I came home and told them. And because I joined that church, my parents came to the church as well. So that was one of the fortunate things about my situation. But what does a single mother do who maybe they haven't been really raised in the church themselves, but they see their children going down a different path? What can they do to bring their children into the church?
Well, to be honest with you, Denise, I was raised in church. I never knew anything different. Just like I never knew anything different. So it really wasn't a choice as to whether Joseph was going to church. He already knew that growing up. But the problem is now, we're giving, to be honest with you, I've heard kids, they're being given a choice. Do you want to go to church? Okay, and, I'm not knocking anybody. That's what you want to do. But he really wasn't given a choice. He was told, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go to church. I mean, the Lord said, the Bible says to bring a child in the way that you would have him to go. So he was told that he wanted to depart. So that was my condition. I felt like it was my place to put that foundation under him. When he gets older, that's left on him. But our kids now, they don't have that foundation. They don't have anybody that's taking them back to church, talking to them about God, telling them just how to handle situations. And they're trying to do it on their own.
Yes. Henry? You there?
I'm listening.
Okay.
Well, I can see, what Elder Denise is saying. I mean, I grew up with a single mom. Mom pretty much was single. She got remarried when I was 20 years old. So I can relate to some of what she's saying. But I'm glad, personally, that my mom raised me in the church.
Yes.
So literally, I was born in the church. So that was a blessing for me that mom raised me in the church. Later on, I had to reconcile things for myself. Because, you can be raised in the church, but later on, you have to reconcile things for yourself, realize, come to know who God really is. So, but like she's saying, it's very important, to be raised in the church. Now, some of the kids nowadays do not have that. It's not like before. And so, it can be kind of difficult, but even, just speaking to single mothers raising kids, the best thing, just from my experience, the best thing that you ever do is to raise them in the church. And it's not to be perfect, because my mom wasn't perfect. But the thing is that if you raise them in the church, your best to teach them, then they got something to fight against the world with. They got something. So even as much as I was a kid, because I didn't stay with my mother for long, but in our culture, in Liberia, you go to stay with your aunt sometimes. My say they wasn't strong boys. But what I had as a child kind of sustained me. So I always would go find a church to go to. So I always prayed before I went to bed. That's how my mom taught me. So even if, those are there with did not have it, they didn't have to tell me to pray. But mama taught me, grandma taught me. So people that raise some kids should know that if you instill that into them, it will be hard for them to depart. Even if they're acting up in the back of the mind, like, man, I shouldn't be doing it. So that's part of my experience.
Thank you. Go ahead.
No, I agree with what Minister Henry is saying, Denise. It has to be part of your experience. If you don't, it's just like things. If I don't serve it up to you, then you're not going to know. And it's the parents' responsibility to bring the child up in the knowledge of the Lord. And that's for some reason or another. If it is happening, I'm not seeing it. I didn't see it as much in school. I didn't see it in my kids. Very few kids could talk, could say, "Oh, I go to church," and that's just a problem. We need to get back to that.
Yes, I think that's one of the main things. I know we talk about them taking prayer out of school, but that don't mean they took prayer out of the home. And so, with that being said, if the prayer and if they're told, because we were made to go to church too. We didn't have no choice. Like I used to tell people, we used to go. I used to go skating on Saturday nights, and skating was from 12 midnight to 5 in the morning. But at 8 o'clock, you had to be up and ready to go to you had to be getting up and we had to be at Sunday school by 9 o'clock. And so you had to get up and get ready. She didn't care how much sleep you did not get. You were going to church, and that was the bottom line. It wasn't anything else to be said about it. And even and I love going to church. So I used to cry when I didn't get to go to church. I used to sit there and I throw one old fit. That's how I was. So I don't know. I guess that's just who I was as a child. And I thank God for that. But, I know everybody doesn't get that same opportunity to have that kind of home. But for those single mothers that are out there and that is raising their sons, and if you want to make a difference in your son's life, then you might want to introduce him to God, and you might want to start bringing them to the church and bringing them in the church, and so that they can get a different perspective. I was talking to two young men probably just a week ago, and they were talking about God, and he said, well, I don't see God. I don't see God, so they want me to believe in something that I don't see. And then I began to explain to him how we see God every day. And so we may not physically see a being, but God is present in everything that's going on in our lives. And I told him, I said, if you look at it from this perspective, and then when I explained that to him that way, then he began to say, because first he was saying, he said, well, maybe I'm an atheist. I said, well, you're not an atheist because you believe in God. I said, atheists don't believe in God at all. I said, matter of fact, I thought about what Dr. James said at that time. They're worse than the devil because the devil even believes and trembles. And then the next thing he said, well, what's that other A word? I said, well, agnostic. I said, you're not that either. Now, I was just telling him what he wasn't, because I'm telling you, I'm trying to instill in him that, that he believes in God, because he wouldn't have these questions if he didn't think God existed. And so I was just trying to instill that portion of it into it, because I believe at all times, on this Christian walk, that we either watering or planting or water. And I said, so if you're helping somebody to get closer to God, you're the planting seed in them, or you're watering the seed, and then God is going to come along and give the increase. And so I really don't worry about that. I plant what seeds I can plant, I water what I can water, and then I let God do the rest. But what I wanted to go back to talking a little bit, and then Denise, we're going to talk about all your wonderful books, because I do want to highlight singles doing good things, singles that are actually doing things in the kingdom. They're using the gifts that God has given them. They're not sitting around on them talking about, I'm waiting on the Lord to do something, or they're not being fearful of doing it. We all have a level of fear when it comes to things we need that we're going to to do or we're gifted to do. That's normal fear. But when I talk about fears, I mean that fear that halts you, that keeps you from going forward, keeps you from doing anything. It's all just in your mind what you want to do, but don't have what you need to push it out. And so we want to highlight these singles that are doing that. They're actually pushing out the things that God has given them to do, and hopefully that will encourage somebody else. We are all not perfect. I write. Denise is a writer too. She's an author too, and I write. And I'm telling you, when I was coming up, I grammatically correct wasn't my name. I didn't do none of that grammatically correct. But one thing the teacher did encourage me with, she said I was very creative. And so I've taken that creativity and we're going to run with that. But next thing I want to do, let me go back to talking about these sons before I get into our creative side of being single and those singles. Because when we think about singles, I'm getting off topic. I got an actual script. I really do. But anyway, since we're going with it, we're just going to go. One thing I want to talk about, and another reason for single talk is because I really feel like sometimes that singles get shortchanged in the church even. Because it feels like, they focus more on the married couples, which is fine. And they focus more on marriage because that is a part of the what God created. And when he created Adam, and then he told him, Adam, it wasn't good for man to be alone, so he brought in Eve. But for those of us for the men that haven't found their Eve, and for the women that haven't found their Adams yet, we still got to operate. But the good thing about it is, if we look over in Corinthians, the 7th chapter, where it talks about being single, that is our time to develop our relationship with God. That is our time to really focus on who we are and come into an awareness of that and begin to really act upon the gifts that God gave you. So it is a lot of benefits to being single, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to go back real quick and talk about this. I had done some research online about single mothers and 5 ways to raise a man. And so I'm going to ask Denise these questions and see if she agrees or disagrees with them and see what she thinks about that. So one of them said, Denise, one of the attributes they said, says 5 ways to raise a man. One of them was to trust yourself and to trust him. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. You have to trust yourself and trust that you're doing the best of yourself, and you have to trust that you put in that child, especially a boy, that you put into that child everything that God has said. You're praying the whole while you're raising them, because ain't no book that you can go buy on the shelf and say how to raise a kid. So,
okay.
Yes, I do believe in that. I agree with that. Yeah, you have to trust yourself. You're going to make mistakes. Everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. But you have to trust that you're being led by the Lord. Yeah, you have to do that.
And I want to say this too.
I love that.
That's a good. I want to say this for anybody that wants to be audible, so you can be able to talk. If you have anything you want to input into this conversation, please call us at 347-826-9658. Again, that's 347-826-9648, and we'll bring you online, and then you'll be able to be heard if any comments you have. Because I'm not sure about the ones coming in on Facebook wanting me to bring them in, because I don't know who you are. I can't really see who you are, and so I don't want to do that. And note this too: if you come on here talking and you're a little thrown off about things, we'll click you on off and pray. So because we don't want to mess up things and have people just doing anything. So anyway, because that's how I got to protect that. So anyway, yeah. So the number is 347-826-9658. 347-826-9648. You can call in and you can be on the broadcast talking and give us some insights, because you might be a single parent raising a son or daughter, and you might have some good input for single mothers that are struggling with raising children. You might give them some helpful insight and some things that might help them along the way. This is what, we don't have the village like we used to, but this can be a part of a village right here. So we're making Single Talk a part of a village to help other people in their needs. So that's what this is going to be about. What about this one, Denise? No tough love. So there's no love that is tough. All the love you would give your son, whether it be good or bad in their eyesight, is good love. What do you think about that comment?
I can agree with that. Sometimes you do have to be tough, but you're being tough in love. So I guess I could say that. Because sometimes, what I learned through all of this, you can't be your child's friend. You got to be a parent.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to stand up and be the parent, and no matter what. And sometimes you're going to have to say no a lot of times. but you're saying no in love. They're not going to understand it. They're definitely not going to agree with it. But still, you got to, when it comes down to it, you're the parent. You're not the friend.
Okay, that's good. What about asking questions and keep on asking them?
Oh, no. No is a complete sentence. So, yeah, I'm not saying you can ask me anything that, you know, if you feel like, but I'm still the parent. I'm adult and I'm grown. So, no, with me and my son have a very good relationship. And he can ask me anything he needs to. I can ask him anything he needs to. But when it comes to a point, no is a complete answer. It's a complete sentence. So if I have to, yeah, I can say no. And he's grown now, so he'll just tell me, well, Mama, you know, that's something I don't want to really discuss with you. Okay, you're grown.
Yes. Okay.
So, yeah.
What about bad mouthing their father? You know, so many single mothers sometimes, you know, they're upset about various things, that their relationship with the father didn't go well, and so they begin to bad mouth the father. What about that? What do you think about that?
No, never. That is his father. What went on with me and his father was not his fault. I never, ever drug him into that. I may have been mad as heck all the time and had something crazy I wanted to say, but I never said it in front of him. At the end of the day, that's still his father. He has to respect his father. And if he doesn't hear me respecting his father, how can he do it? So, no, you're going to get mad. You're going to get angry. Whatever the man is doing or not doing. That's between you and him. I never brought that up to the son. You don't put him in between an adult relationship. I never agreed with that, and I never believed in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Let me speak to that. Let me speak to that too, because I know exactly what y'all like.
Yes.
You know, if you speak against a child's father, you're gonna have two things coming for you. Either he or she is going to be very resentful against the father or against you. It's a very tricky thing, because they can end up turning against you. I know it. I've seen it.
Yes.
And I experienced it. So I remember, you know, because my mom and my dad never really had a good relationship. So my mom thought the thing to do was bad mouth my father, in which, you know, to some degree I resented my dad. But then, on the flip side, I resented her, because kids don't need to be hearing. Yeah. But when you start getting older, you start thinking about it and say, okay, all this stuff you were talking, you know, you're not perfect either now. So you start thinking about it. You start thinking, because you can't control. You would tell a child certain things, but eventually the child starts to grow up and start thinking and start observing you. And then the child be like, oh, you know, okay, I see. You know, you said this about my dad or my mom, but the fact of the matter is, you're not all that. You got some issues. It can cause a lot of tension. It can cause even depression in kids. It's not healthy. I mean, I experienced it. My parents used to be acting up. You know, I feel like, man, what they doing? You know, sometimes you even feel sad, and sometimes one of the things you think that it's your fault, that you fight that. Kids can feel that way. So, but it's one of the wrong moves. Never bad mouth a father or mother to the child. You can't do that, because I got cousins who that happened. Where mother always, my aunt always said certain things for the dad. But then as they got older, they became very resentful against the mom, not the dad. At first they were with the dad, but as they became older and they observed some things, they were like, well, you know, okay. And some of them grew closer to the dad. I got a cousin who actually literally grew closer to his dad, and he kind of like his mom. Really, there was so much tension there. Although she said so much, but then he kind of flipped it around. So that's the wrong thing.
That's good. That's good.
That's true.
That's true. Go ahead.
What I'm hearing a lot now is, you know, we have a lot of, like, I'm a single parent. and I had a lot of students. But the one thing I noticed that especially with young girls, the mother would try to discipline them and say, I'm going to do, you call and trying to get the parent. And I had a number of students that would say, fine, I'm gonna take your cell phone. And they turn around and say, I've had a student who say, take it. I'm just gonna call my dad and he's gonna bring me another one. So even though you may not be with that parent, you gotta try to get along with both of y'all. You may not be in the house together, but it's not right that I make a decision. Parents have to learn, if I make a decision, you can't go behind my back and do something different. Especially if that's not good for the welfare of the child. You need to, even though you're not together, and it doesn't matter. My son never saw me and him arguing. You just don't do it. We have to be a united front for the child.
That's good. That is good. I want to thank both of you all for the comments and the discussion we've had about being a single parent or single mother raising a son and all of those conversations, because I gotta get to highlighting my single that's doing work for the Lord, so I don't want to miss that. And our time, time goes so fast. But thank you all so much for this good conversation. I think it was very helpful, and I think it was a good conversation because we have to hear these kinds of things. So I'm hoping that some single mother was out there and they heard what was being said and they can be encouraged, or they can begin to think about things differently and begin to maybe do it differently, maybe not badmouth the father so much, and not at all, and begin to not to speak badly of him in the presence of your child, and so that your child can form their own opinion about their father, or on the vice versa, if it's a father raising a son and then the mother's not in the picture, that they can begin to develop a positive image of their mother, or begin to know them in a different way. So I hope this was helpful, and even on some tips about single mothers continuing on with your life as you're raising your kids, that you don't forget about yourself in a thing like you just don't put everything on hold and say, well, I just got to raise my child and I can't do anything else, and then you start being resentful that you even have children. And so hopefully that's not it, but you have to be able to navigate all of those things and stuff like that. And so that's what Denise was talking about. And then Henry was talking about it from him being a son being raised by a single mother. So you heard two perspectives on the topic. So hopefully the topic was a blessing to you. Hopefully it was helpful to you. So, but now I want to talk to Denise Montgomery, the author. That's who I'm talking to now. I was talking to Denise Montgomery, the mother, and so now I want to talk about Denise Montgomery, the author. And so Denise has a new book coming out, and it's called I Want to Go. I'm going to see if I can move this Facebook Live so you can at least see the cover. And so hopefully that's what you're seeing right there. It's her cover of her book. And so I want to begin to talk about that. Now, as Denise has wrote, I had to remind her the other day that she's written 7 books. And so she's got 4 published books, one that is waiting to be published, and then one that she's working on now. And so, but we're going to talk about the current book that she is currently published, and it's called I Want to Go. And so I Want to Go is really a historical book. So talk a little bit about it, Denise. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, thank you so much, Denise. As a matter of fact, it will be coming. I will be launching it this week. Basically, the book is based on a historical. Basically, it's based on a story from my life. During the 60s, the state of Texas was segregated. It was segregated up until 1967. At that time, African Americans, or basically people of color, we had one day that we could go to the fair, and that was the second Monday in October. And up until that time, if you missed that second Monday, that was just too bad. So it just so happened that year, I was all ready to go. My grandmother would take us to the fair. It was me and my 3 sisters. My brothers would go sometimes. But basically, what happened that year, it rained. And I didn't get a chance to go. And as a 10-year-old child, I never really realized why. She kept saying, well, baby, it's not Colored People's Day. I didn't care. My thing was, it was called Negro Achievement Day, but Grandma called it Colored People's Day. So basically, that grew up in me, and as I got older, of course, I realized that it was segregation and discrimination and a racial issue. But that was just a sore that never healed. So basically, as I got older, as you remember a few years ago, you and I were in Houston at a conference, And another author brought this idea. So what I did, I wrote the book from a fictional, it's my story, but I wrote it with a fictional character by the name of Rainey. And she lives in Tyler, just outside of Tyler on the farm. And she's been waiting her whole 10 years to come to the State Fair of Texas. Because her mother told you don't get to school until you're 10 years old. So basically, I tried to bring in, it was during the 1965 that Dr. Martin Luther King, he marched over the bridge in Selma, Alabama. 65 was the year we had the riots in L.A. 65 was the year 1964 we came out with the Voting Rights Act. But so I've tried to bring in as much history as I could. I brought in some of the music of the time, the Supremes, James Brown, and I think kids will enjoy it. The cover, the illustrator was just wonderful. So it's basically a picture book because it has a number of illustrations in it. And I really think kids will enjoy it. I really do. It's going to be available on Amazon. It's basically where any books are sold. You can get it.
You can get it. That's good. That is really good. And I'm excited about it because, you know, she read it to me. I was one of her people that she got to read the book to, and it's really a good story. And I won't tell y'all about it because it's got some stuff in there, and you got to go and read it. It's a joy. It's going to be a joy to read, and you're going to get a whole lot out of it because there's a lot going on. She is such a gifted writer. When I say gifted, I mean gifted in the way that she depicts characters in her books and things like that. And so I'm saying all this to say because we have some single people that are really doing stuff. They are doing what the Lord has gifted them to do. They're doing things in the kingdom of God. They're making a difference. They're using their singleness as God has planned for it to be used. They're having that time to get a closer relationship with God. Use the gifts that God has given them. Singles, you got it going on. I'm telling you, got it going on. Don't let nobody tell you any different because you have not married yet, or maybe you were married, you're not married now, or maybe you were married and your spouse passed on, or you're married with children. You know, I always say it's four facets of single, married, single divorced, single widowed, and single with children. So Denise, tell us also. So it has a really historical background. This book does, but it will be a very good read for those, and especially for those teachers in school that, you know, are history teachers or English teachers. This is a good book to get to maybe introduce to your class. Tell them a little bit about Texas history, because Texas history is a part of the U.S. history curriculum, even in the school. So this will be a good book for them to read. And so I'm putting that out there, Denise. I'm throwing them out. And so we just throwing out good things to say. Now tell us a little bit about. Let's see. I'm gonna say, okay, we got about 19 minutes. Tell us a little bit about, because one of the things that I thought about when I thought about your books was you always have a purpose, and so I remember the blessing had to do with domestic violence, and then even your first book, Farmer Brown, had to do with adopting children. So tell us a little bit about those books and those all of your books. Let's just talk about all of them. You know, I had a whole story that asked about the protagonist and the antagonist, because, you know, I do book reviews and I do book interviews, and so, but we're just going with it since we got time. So what else would you like us to know about? I want to go. Do you have anything else you want to talk about in that particular book? And if not, then we're going to go on to the next one, which is the setup.
Well, basically, Denise, thank you. You're doing better than I'm doing, girl. Basically, I want people to know it's for kids of all ages. As you know, the curriculum for the state of Texas, 4th grade and 7th grade, is Texas history. So the book would be appropriate for any of those grade levels at any time.
Yes.
And the book has been reviewed. It's got a 5-star review. My next book is the setup. The setup is about a 20-year-old female. She's coming of age, and it was during that time in her life where it's a fictional town in Mississippi, and the young lady's name is Marie. She's becoming of age, and it's basically about a time in life. You know, we all meet that tall, dark, and handsome stranger, Denise, and then we find out they ain't about nothing. Okay, so Denise is the young girl in the book finds out, goes through trials and tribulations as she's coming of age. But then she realizes that, you know, you always think your mother don't really understand what you're going through, only to find out that, you know, her mother had a secret and there were some things going on with her life. And it came to fruition. And they both learned that, okay, we both need each other. All three of them need each other.
That is good, Denise.
The next book is.
Go ahead, talk about the blessing. And now the blessing, and I want you to talk about your plays and your nonprofit. We want to talk about this. We got to get all this in. Go ahead, talk about the blessing. The blessing, woo, come on.
Denise is going, oh, because I did a play with the blessing. It came out in 2014, and I used it to focus on domestic violence. Emily is the main character. She is the protagonist, and she basically comes from a dysfunctional family. Didn't know, father didn't love her, mother didn't care for her. Basically, she strikes out on her own. And women, we always have a tendency to meet the same man we just left. So she found her father in another man. Mm-hmm. Only Jeff is 3 times worse than that. And he takes her, she leaves Arkansas. He takes her right back where she's from. They're living on her dad's property. The dad is crazy, and he has a lot going on. Jeff has a lot going on, and the abuse is horrific. But through it all, I'm not going to tell you the story. Emily survived. But it's heart-wrenching just to see all of that she has to go through. It's definitely a story of triumph and prevail, and how you don't give up. You just don't give up on your dream. And she doesn't. And in 2014, I came out with a play entitled The Blessing. I took 3 chapters from the book and made it into a play. And we ran it for a year long. And I'm looking for sponsorship because God knows it's my heart to get it back up. So as soon as I find some sponsors that can help me get the play back up and running, it will be up again. And I'm just anxious to do it. I've written another play, Secrets, Lies, and Conversations, that I would love to get back at that I would love to get out on the stage. Like I said, it's just needing sponsorship and needing help. But I'm just thanking for this time for allowing me to come out and talk about what's important to me. Thank you so much.
And then talk a little bit about Farmer Brown and Lady Madeline and what that story is about too, because that's about something that a lot of people are beginning to do.
Yes. Farmer Brown and Lady Madeline, the children's story, was my very first book. It all started with a wise old owl. It started with a loving couple that are really kind of toothless and, dumb. And, it's a children's book, and they live out on this farm. They don't have any children, and they're trying their best to figure out how to get kids. So you have to have a child's imagination. So they go to the wise old owl to ask him, how do we go about getting some kids? And owls are nocturnal, and he wakes them up in the daytime. So the owl decides he's going to play a trick. So he tells the farmer and his wife, you got to get up for 7 nights in a row. Every night you got to go out here and you got to dance in these fields. Well, they just that stupid that they did. Only little did they know that there was a coven of kids that had been hidden in the forest for years and nobody knew about it. So as they danced, the children magically appeared. Farmer Brown ends up getting the kids that he really does, and he adopts them. It's a lovely story about hope and endurance and children being saved, and about adoption, because that's exactly what they do. They adopted them and brought them into their home.
And the thing about those children were really multicultural. It wasn't all one type of culture. They were multicultural, and so and a lot of that is going on now. So I just really wanted to highlight Denise and let me talk about this first. I want to highlight she's such a gifted writer, and when she tickles me because I get to interview authors on Indie Beacon Radio, and I'm a part of Texas Authors. Both of us are. So if there's any authors out there and you want a good place to fellowship with authors and to get some good promotion and get some good answers to some of your questions, Texas Authors is a place. Indie Beacon Radio. Indie Beacon is a place. This is a new book in a place where your books will be pushed so that you can make some money. They're just not going to be sitting there. And so if that's something, I'm plugging that. I'm plugging that because that is something that I enjoy doing. So I do get to interview with authors on that book and on that show. And what I found so interesting, and Denise is this is why, and I asked all of them based upon what Denise has told me, how the characters begin to talk. And so they're really telling their story through the authors. This is what I say. They're telling their story through the authors. And so we're getting to hear these stories that the author is getting and then they're putting on paper. And so I think that's just exciting when you think about it. And even for myself, I think it's exciting because some of the poetry that I write is nothing that I've experienced, but the Lord has given it to me, so I write it. And so those are some of the things. But tell us about your nonprofit, Denise, and your journey of trying to teach adult literacy.
Well, thank you so much. As Denise said, I have a nonprofit, 3 Leaves Literacy, Leadership, and Learning Institute. And my passion is to help adults read. I love helping adults read, to come into it. If you can't read, you can't get a job. You can't keep a job. That's just it. So basically, as I said, I just recently retired, and I want to use my nonprofit to, there are over 3 million people in Texas alone that are struggling with literacy. So we got to reach them some kind of way. So what I'm doing right now, I have a Tuesday night class that I teach at a shelter. So I have about 10 women that I go in and I doing basic literacy skills with them. But it's my desire, it is my hope and desire to get another class started at some point in time, hopefully this year, this summer really, that I would love to go out and get it going, get to have people come to me. At this point, I'll make a class and I'll go to you as long as there is a location. I just want to help adults learn to read and to become better citizens. And if you can't read, you can't lead. If you can't read, you can't get a job. So that is my hope and my prayer to get that going. There's 3 Leaves Literacy and Leadership Academy, our Leadership Institute. I would just appreciate if you know of anyone that needs help with literacy, please, put a text on. Put it on Denise's on the Facebook line here.
Thank you so much, Denise. So I'm telling, look at this. This is a single woman, a single godly woman who is doing good things for the Lord and for kingdom purposes. So that's why I just want singles to be excited about being single. And and you may have a desire to be married, and there is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. But while you're single, get to know who you are, get to know who God is, and begin to do the things that God has gifted you to do. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff, because we're going to talk about all of it. I don't mind talking about none of it, so we're going to talk about all of it. I got a whole list of stuff to talk about, and I got some series, because Lord always give me stuff in series, so I got a whole series, and we're going to start one place and come to the end of it and be better afterwards. So these are things we're going to do. We're going to keep Single Talk going. And so, but I am so thankful I got to interview Denise Montgomery today. She was my starting point, and we're going to interview her again probably later on and really begin to highlight. But now she's an author. Now go out there. She's on Facebook, Denise Montgomery. Her books is on Amazon, Denise Montgomery, and her books are so go out there and support. They're on Texas Authors. They're on Indie Beacon, INDIEBEACON, Indie Beacon. Go out there and support her. They're good reads, and so go out there and support our singles that are doing things. If you know somebody that needs adult literacy, she's the one. So you can call her about that. If you know somebody that can help get her plays and get some sponsorship, maybe you have a business and you want to invest in some money and have your name on the thing as being a sponsor. She needs sponsorship to get these plays up and going, especially those that are the one for domestic violence. If you know somebody, let's help one another out. Working together works, honey. Willing workers are needed. They used to sing it when I was in Sunday school. And helping, help. If you got some help and you got some money that you can help with her with, then be a blessing to her. Denise Montgomery, she's on Facebook. She's on, and so you can call, you can get her on there, hit her up, and just tell her, hey, I would like to sponsor. You may want the play to come to your church or may come to your organization. Hit her up about that. And you might be sponsoring an event. You might need somebody with to bring their books and to be a speaker on these different topics. She talks about adoption. She talks about domestic violence. She talks about, of a family coming together and helping one another out. And then also she's talking about this Texas history. Schools, have her come and read for your 4th, 5th, and 6th graders the history course. So there's a lot of things we can do to help one another. Let us remember to help one another and do those types of things. That's what we want to do. That is what Single Talk is about. So if you are single and you want to get on this show, let me know, because I don't mind interviewing you. I don't mind talking about topics you want to talk about. All of that. We're going to talk about them all. We're going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about all of it, believe me. And so we're going to get it all out there. Go ahead.
Let me jump in a little bit.
Yeah.
Montgomery, how you as a single mother, what would you say to young single Christian women how to conduct themselves?
Good question.
Basically, as young Christian single women, in a godly manner. You know, it's amazing you ask that. It's just amazing you ask that. My grandmother used to tell us all the time, if you ain't trying to sell nothing, don't advertise. You know, you don't have to go out with your body all showing. Everything ain't got to show. You know, men see you even when you don't think they see you. They see you. So, modesty. You know, we live in a society where it's just go for what you know. You know, put on whatever you want to put on. If it feels good, do it. You know, and we can't be that way. Like you said, if you trying to catch a godly man, how you gonna go out there and not look godly? Yeah, because wherever you look like, that's what you're gonna attract.
Yes.
And I would tell women, you know, yeah, you whatever you want to attract, go out there looking like that. That's exactly what you're gonna attract. So if that's the kind of person you want to, that just wants to appreciate you for your body, because that's what you're showing it. You know, if that's what you're looking for, then fine, go for it, you know. But if you don't go out there saying you're looking for a godly man, but you're not going out there portraying a godly woman.
That's good.
You know, good. I tell my students at school, you don't have to do anything to catch him, baby. He sees you. And my girls, they would get all from, that's just old time, and that's old fashioned. I'm going, yeah, but it's what I guarantee he sees you. So carry yourself in a manner where, you know, you want the best to be said about you at all times. Yes. That's what I tell. Just you want whatever you want to be said about you, it can be said about you. There's something good all the time.
That's good. That's really good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise. But let me say something about my co-host, because he was on here. He was kind of quiet, but he's an author as well. He is working on his masterpiece, and he's almost at the finish line. So it will be coming out. I told him this is going to be in universities. This university level. So that's what I've been telling him, encouraging him, because he's been talking about it along the way. So I've been hearing about it, and what I'm hearing, I hear university. I hear university level. So that's what I'm hearing. It's going to be a blessing to the body of Christ. But I can see them using this as part of curriculum in universities, because it's just that much detail, just that much information. And so I think that he's also a minister. He's that, and he also has a nonprofit as well. And both of these, Denise is an elder and he's a minister. And so, but both of them he has a nonprofit as well that he does, and he's doing some work. Tell him a little bit about it. We got a couple of minutes, so tell him a little bit about what you're doing as well, Henry.
Well, my nonprofit is just still in the woodwork, still working on it, trying to get it started. But we've been doing some work in Liberia, the school. I think that's what I want to direct my attention, helping with schools. Even here, we're working on some things to try to educate our community, minority community, because I think education is very important. And when it comes to even Christian education, Christian studies, because one of the things I see is that I receive frustration sometimes among Black people concerning our faith and how was it started and where did it come from. And we can say, well, God. But history is important. I mean, we may understand it differently, do things differently, but there are other people who, if you approach them history, clear with some things, they can see themselves in the story better. Mm-hmm. They can see themselves in Christ better. So that's one of the things that we're working on, trying to push. So hopefully, by the end of the year, we will be moving pretty strong, hopefully, by the grace of God.
Amen. Good, good, good. So there we have two single people on the line that are doing things in the kingdom, doing good things for the Lord, doing good things, using their gifts and talents for godly purposes and for things and just community purposes as well. And so, and then, Denise, I call her an international missionary because she goes everywhere. She done been everywhere doing missionary work. And so I told her make sure she puts that on her resume that she's international because she is just that. She's been everywhere. Ghana, she's been, in different parts of Mexico, different parts of Africa, China, all over. So, we got people that are doing things. There is so. And so, just focus on those types of things, those gifts and callings and those destiny purposes, those purpose and destiny that God has for you. I hope this has been encouraging. We're going to keep doing it. We will be back on next week with Single Talk. And then we will be back, I think, the third week. And then we're going to be off a week because I'm going to be out of town. And then, but that don't mean we'll work that out. And then we'll be back on 2 weeks in July. Then we'll be off 2 weeks because I'll be out of town doing some single stuff myself. I'll be doing some stuff with some children. And so we'll be doing that. And then we'll be back August, full force. So I'm so excited about this. This is something God gave me some years ago. And so, of course, I've been procrastinating. So I'm talking about myself when I'm talking about singles getting out there doing what they are purposed to do and what God has told them to do without fear. And so, when you get older, you think to yourself, well, I better get all this out of me. I don't know. So anyway, but the Lord knows. And so anyway, I'm so thankful for each and every one of you that joined in. Do not forget to support Denise Montgomery and her books and her book, I Want to Go. That's the newly released book, I Want to Go. And then she has The Blessing. And then she has the Setup. And then Farmer Brown and Lady Madeline. And so, and then she's got some more coming out. And so anyway, we got all that going on. And then I'm going to be bringing you some other stuff. And I'll talk about my stuff as we go along. But nevertheless, thank you all for listening to us on what? Single Talk. God bless you all, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bless you.
God bless you.